Too many small businesses are overlooking and dismissing the need for cyber insurance. It's no longer something reserved for large corporations. And today we'll discuss cyber insurance, how it has evolved over the last 5 years, and insurability. Join us for some key insights to protect your business. Hi, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe you must remove your revenue roadblocks to accelerate growth, and marketing shouldn't be difficult. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I am super excited to have Andy Runyon, who is the lone redneck at Fifth Wall Solutions. Andy, welcome and thanks for being here, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on. And no, lone redneck is not my official title. But I do call myself that, right? I'm the sole Southerner on the team. Technically, I'm our partner risk advisor, but living in Arkansas, I deal with a bunch of Northerners. So, I get that moniker whether I like it or not.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions to start things off today. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
Okay. When you're not working, how do you like to spend your time?
Man, honestly, hanging out with my wife and drinking coffee and watching murder mysteries. We have 3 kids, so any downtime that's relaxed is how I like to go.
Okay, I love it, man. Do you have a hidden talent?
My hidden talent is that I don't even know if it's a talent, but it's the thing that most surprises people about me is I absolutely love and have a passion for art history. A lot of folks in my area know athletic background, but I really am deeply interested in art history.
In art history, cool. That surprises me. I never would have guessed.
I got my pointed the wrong way. Got my Caravaggio over here somewhere. There it is, right there.
Nice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I would say, the best piece of advice, and I've heard it from multiple different people. As somebody who is highly, emotional and as a young man was reactive, was regardless of what piece of information that you receive, whether you perceive it to be good or bad, sleep on it, pray on it, give it a little while before you respond. I look back as a young man, made a lot of emotive, immediate responses to things that both I thought were good and bad. And man, didn't play out well. So I think that pause in response is a big deal.
How many of us have immediately started typing a response to an email that we were super pissed off about? And plenty of us have hit send and we're like, oh crap, I shouldn't have done that. And when we can come back to it with just cool down, a little bit of a fresh perspective, we can think with clear head, right?
100%.
What does success mean to you?
Man, success to me means being able to provide for my family and having time on my schedule where I can hang out with those guys. I've got 3 kids and been married for 18 years. So success for me is less about bank account or anything necessarily corporate, and more that I'm doing my job well enough that somebody wants to pay me well enough that I can take care of the people at home.
Yeah, cool. Where's your happy place?
My happy place is my back porch, man. We've got about 3 acres out behind us that have a wiffle ball field on it, and my happy place is hanging out back there and having a drink. It depends on what time of day. It may be a coffee, it may be a beer, it may be a water, but having a drink and watching the kiddos play wiffle ball.
So you kind of have like a mini field of dreams.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. It's very Southern. There's no corn, right? Like there are oak trees and deer, but we've got an area out there for the kiddos, neighborhood kiddos to go run around.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. What qualities do you value in the people you spend time with?
I think that professionally, the things that I value the most are humility and empathy, in that we're all going to screw up, right? Do we have the ability to say, hey, I did screw up and here's how we learn from it? And then empathy in that, just understanding where our clients and other people come from. If I can work with people that are humble and empathetic, we're going to do it. We're going to do our job well. Right. And then from my family, what I really want out of my kids is I want them to put others before themselves. That's the main thing.
So, tell us a little bit more about Fifth Wall, Andy. What are you guys doing?
So Fifth Wall they were founded in 2015. I should say I wasn't there. I mean, I should say I wasn't there then in 2015. But when Fifth Wall was founded in 2015, we are a cyber insurance specialist wholesaler. And what that means is, for those of you that don't know the insurance world, right, in our ecosystem, you've got your local agents, mom and pop shops, you've got specialized wholesalers or generalist wholesalers. And then you have the carriers that actually write the insurance. So we're a cyber insurance specialist wholesaler, sit there in the middle. Fifth Wall was founded in 2015 with the idea that we were going to work with local agencies nationwide, right? The pandemic hit. Cyber underwriting changed massively. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but we went from 2019, if you wanted insurance, are you a marijuana shop? What's your revenue? Have you had a loss in the last couple of years? And that was it, right? To now 2024. Do you have MFA? Where do you have it? What type of MFA? Do you have EDR? What type of EDR? Do you have a backup? Like all of these different plans or all these different underwriting questions. So we changed post-pandemic, and now how we primarily operate is we work with MSPs to help them and their clients understand their liability and get the best cyber insurance for the best price.
Yeah. So MSPs are recommending Fifth Wall to their clients, and you guys are helping. The MSPs are taking care of the IT side of the house and the cyber side, and you guys are coming in and writing the insurance to protect the end client.
That's correct. That's correct. Now,
to simplify this too, to make sure I've got this right as well, as a cyber insurance wholesaler, what you guys basically give a client the ability to do is shop multiple insurance providers, right? Rather than going to State Farm or Allstate or whoever it might be, right? And getting a policy through that specific company. A client comes to you and say, hey, here's where we're at. And you guys shop it between all the various providers that you work with.
That's correct. Yes. And we have over 45 markets. I don't know the exact number. We've been negotiating with a couple, but we've got between 45 and 50 markets. And why that's important in the cyber world, really more than any other line. I mean, Tim, if let's say you had a business with 100 employees and you went out to get a work comp quote today, workers' compensation is an established risk, and you might get a variance of 5, maybe 7% on any quote that you get from different carriers.
Yeah.
Cyber insurance has not been
Totally
around
different.
that long, about 20 years, right? So you go out and get 5 cyber quotes. Let's say you have a business that has 100 million revenue and 400 employees. You go out and get a cyber insurance quote. The top end of that right now for 5 million insurance, you're going to probably be paying 175 grand. The bottom end with good controls, you might be paying 50 to 60. So there's like $100,000 to $120,000 of delta between what you could pay and what you should pay.
Yeah.
Right. Pretty important to have market access and know what carriers like your sector, who likes healthcare, who doesn't like healthcare, who underwrites it and values certain controls. So working with a wholesaler that specializes and have those markets can be very financially beneficial to the entity.
And you guys are paid by the insurance carrier, correct?
Correct.
So it's not costing the end client any money to work with you.
That's right. No, they're. I mean, and it doesn't cost the MSPs either. They're from a partnership standpoint. We take the stance that, again, let's go back to our example. We've got a $100 million healthcare entity, 400 employees. Their local agent hasn't been doing a very good job of answering their questions around potential claims or coverages or whatever. So they run to the MSP and they say, "Hey, we trust you guys. You're our tech advisor. Is this insurance enough? Does it have the right coverage?" Well, it's our opinion, very strong opinion, that the MSP should not answer that question because they're not licensed insurance professionals, right?
Yeah.
Just like I shouldn't answer questions about multi-factor or EDR or IR planning, right?
Yeah.
So what we do is we'll partner for free with the MSP and offer free consultation to their clients when they have questions around their insurance program at no cost to the client, at no cost to the MSP. And quite often we meet with folks and we go, hey, look, you guys have got your local agent's done a great job. You've got a good insurance plan with a good carrier and good limits and a great deductible. Sleep well, right? You don't need to do anything else. But there are a decent amount of times too. We had one sent in a couple of weeks ago, had a $65 million entity that they had been written $50,000 of cyber insurance. Like, not great, right? We gauge them as like a $7 or $8 million average risk, and they've got $50K insurance.
Yeah, I was gonna say that seems a little underinsured.
Slightly.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Well, so let's just make sure we're all on the same page.
Yep.
Let's define cyber insurance first.
Yep. Right out of the gate, cyber insurance is really got three types of coverage, right? It's got first party coverage, third party coverage, and cybercrime. So really it acts in three ways. When there is a loss to a business because of a bad actor, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad actor. It can be, like one of your third party vendors can go down. They had a breach, but their downtime affects you, right? It can be because of an outage. There are a couple different ways that cyber insurance will respond, right? But what we want to see is first party, third party, and cybercrime. First party, think you're a loss, right? You pay out a ransom, you lose business income, you pay or you lose reputation, and lose some accounts. That's first party. Third party, think the other guy and their loss, legal fees, forensics, fines, penalties, right? All of those things fall under third party. And then cybercrime is direct theft of funds, right? So all the stuff that we've been reading about, social engineering attack, man in the middle, invoice manipulation. Somebody hops in and says, hey, pay this. We've been working on this with you guys, pay this amount to this bank account, but they changed the email address from an I to a L, and they established a new bank account, and you wire $40,000 to poof, right? That's cybercrime. So that's, generally speaking, those are the three coverages that you should see with cyber insurance.
Okay. And you had touched on this a little bit earlier, Andy, but a lot of changes in the space over the last 5 years. Like, touch on that for us a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So previously, not just from the insurance underwriting standpoint, but the need for small businesses. In 2010s, the vast majority of cybercrime was relegated to the Targets and the Equifaxes of the world, right? Pandemic hits, work from home, cyber criminals are sitting there going, look at all these, look at all this low hanging fruit out there, right? So we start seeing, I live in a town of 30,000 people. Our single location funeral home got hit, right? They do like $1.2 million in revenue. They're a small group, and those guys got hit. So what we've seen post COVID is we've seen a major shift to cybercrime in number. Do the big guys still get hit and have massive payouts? Sure, they do. But as far as the actual number of attacks, the vast majority of the number of attacks occur in the 0 to 25 million in revenue space. So we believe, again, at Fifth Wall, and we're biased, but we believe that for a small business, that cyber insurance is right up there with general liability, work comp, building insurance, all of those things. Because, let's be honest, what's shutting businesses down right now is ransomware attacks, right? Not grandma falling and breaking her hip on the GL policy, not a tornado. Everybody's got insurance for that. What's shutting businesses down is ransomware and folks not being able to financially recover.
Yeah. So and if you can't go into details on this, certainly let me know. But I think it would help people to understand, kind of like in the example of the local funeral home,
right?
That I'm guessing that was a case of their systems were taken over and they couldn't actually operate, right?
That's correct. Yep. That's correct.
I knew somebody, this was prior to the pandemic, and they were actually an IT provider, right? They were, and they got ransomware. But in their particular case, they got hacked and they needed to pay a ransom, but they were specializing in a very specific vertical in the healthcare
Mm-hmm.
space,
Mm-hmm.
and all of their clients got ransomed as well.
Yep.
So I think it's difficult for some people to really understand until they see this happen. But like, man, depending on the types of clients you work with, if you have very valuable clients, I think you are a very high target. Am I thinking about that in the right way?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
And that's, I mean, we tell people all the time, there are three things that drive people to cyber insurance, right? There is, them experiencing their own breach, right? Contractual requirements and education. Unfortunately, education's the least impactful, right? Very
Yeah.
seldom does somebody go to a conference and hear about cyber insurance and go home and go, hey, guess what? I want to spend more money on insurance.
Yeah.
So really, unfortunately, right now, what's driving the adoption of this thing is somebody contractually saying, hey, you've got to have it, or them experiencing their own breach. Now, the bad part of that is, to your point, people do not understand all of the ways that they can get hit because they're not paying attention to the education side, right?
Yeah.
Most people just kind of stick their head in the sand and, you know, CrowdStrike recently, great
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
didn't have a breach, right? Like the individual businesses didn't have a breach,
Nope.
but they still lost revenue. They may have lost
Yep.
contracts, right?
Yep.
Cyber insurance, if it's written right, will respond to that, right?
Yeah.
CDK Global before that with car dealerships. Car dealership didn't have a breach, right? CDK
Yep.
Global had the issue. That was a breach, right?
Yeah.
But car dealerships were sending people home and not selling cars for 4 and 5 and 6 days because they're third party issue, right?
Yeah.
So this thing has a lot of fingers to it, man. I mean, it is a more than 8 tentacle octopus,
Yeah.
and people don't really understand, how long and how far those tentacles can go.
Yeah. So you can't, as individual business owners, we certainly can't control, what type of, insurance are the other people we're working with have, but we
Right,
can control what we do.
right,
And in some cases, I'm guessing that if you're the third party, um, the first thing they're going to do is go after somebody else's cyber insurance if it's there.
right.
And if it's not, then their own cyber insurance is there as a backstop. Is that typically how it works?
That's it. Yeah. And that's one of the things going back to our relationship with our MSP partners, a vast majority of what I spend my time doing is talking to MSPs about, like, yes, let's talk about your client risk, but let's talk about your client risk and how it affects your risk, right? Like if you're
Yes.
an MSP and you're protecting, let's say 50 clients and half of them don't have cyber insurance. I mean, you got 25 people out there that if they have a breach and they have business income loss, or if they pay a ransom and they're sitting there looking listen, the average ransomware event, we saw a really good report. Oh, I'm trying to think of who it is. It'll come to me here shortly. But from 0 to 10 million, the average ransomware event's costing about 1.1 to 1.2 million dollars right now in 2024. You don't have insurance and you're on the hook for 1.1 million dollars. Somebody's getting sued, and guess what? Probably the MSP. So that's, yes, 100%. We believe in 2024, it is fully contractually okay and normal to enter into business deals with people and say, hey, we're going to need you to have your own cyber insurance, right?
Yeah.
If they choose not to, you've just got to realize the risk that you're accepting, right? There's a chance that they could have a breach that could affect you, and then you could end up in court because they're not indemnified by their coverage.
Yeah. God. Yeah. So many little landmines there as you
Right.
walk down the path, right?
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about insurability. You've touched on this, but I
Yep.
want to make sure
Mhm.
people understand this because this is not as simple as just saying
Right.
I want cyber insurance and you apply.
Right.
There's a lot of hoops that you need to jump through, and if you don't, that could impact whether you even get insurance or how much you're going to pay. Can you break that
That's right.
down a little bit for us?
Yep. And let's kind of talk about how we got there, right? Like I made a
Yeah.
statement earlier in 2019, they weren't asking any type of technical questions. Well, guess what? 2020 and 2021 was awful for the insurance industry, right? So many of these cyber policies that were written for thousands of dollars paid out tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in claims, right? And what the insurance industry realized is that they accepted a lot of really poor risk, meaning businesses that didn't have MFA, that didn't have backups, right? That didn't have proper cybersecurity controls in place. Insurance companies, there were a couple of carriers that for a 2-year period, they're operated at 114% loss ratio. And we've got those stats now. And for those of you that aren't in the insurance world, that means that every time somebody paid in $1 in premium, the company paid out $1.14 in claims. Not good, right?
No.
So from that came updated underwriting guidelines, right? And what that means is companies are starting to ask now some basic cybersecurity. I mean, some of them are way more than basic, depending on your revenue and sector. But there are some kind of core controls that we believe that are out there, things like multi-factor authentication, daily backups, patching strategy, security awareness training for your employees, endpoint detection, right? And that's not to say that other things aren't important, but those are kind of the key things right now. We've learned as an industry that if you can knock down those 5-6 things, antivirus, firewalls, if we can do that basic stuff, fewer of those clients are going to have losses than the folks that are just out there willy-nilly.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it would seem to me too, Andy, that that's another reason why it's so important for the MSP to be involved in this, because a lot of clients are going to get that list of questions and they're going to have no idea.
That's right. So there's a
Right?
couple of things to that. Yeah, no, 100%. There's a couple things to that. Number one, if you get a 10-page app, you need to know which questions are the questions, right? Like that's kind of an issue in cyber insurance right now. It's kind of hard to know, like, did they bury one on page 8 that's going to be the gotcha question, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just be honest with you. That's one of the things that we've addressed at Fifth Wall. It's one of the things that we kind of fly our flag on is we'll tell you what the key controls are, right? The other part is the MSP has a infinite amount of things that they can do with these clients, right? Like there's this huge buffet out there of services offered. It's very helpful for the MSP to be able to go in there and say, hey, now in 2024, we're going to spend with the cybersecurity heart first. Like cybersecurity is going to be key, but we also have to consider compliance if you are under FTC or if you're under HIPAA or whatever, right? And we also have to consider insurability. The good thing is in 2024 is a lot of those things have aligned around like NIST standards, right? So if I spend $1 on MFA, that's going to align with most compliance standards. And guess what? It's also going to make you more insurable, right?
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, it's very key for the MSP to understand that. Again, they don't need to opine or advise on cyber insurance or any insurance at all because they're not licensed specialists, but to be able to speak fluently around how does cybersecurity and compliance and insurability fit and align in 2024? They absolutely need to be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, and they can also be there to help assist the client, right? So if they get a quote back that says, well, hey, it's going to be X, but if you had this in place, it would be Y. The MSP can go like, hey, it's going to cost you this much to implement this, which is less than what it's going to cost you to pay the additional insurance premium. So
100%.
This is a no-brainer.
And I do want to caveat that and kind of throw an asterisk in there.
Yes.
It does not always work that way. Now, it does. And we've got some phenomenal case studies and examples. I mean, right off the top of my head, we had a hospital that saved $88,000 in premium by spending roughly $37K on MFA and security awareness training.
Yeah.
The deductible cut in half, higher limits. I mean, it was wonderful, right? Like we've got a whole hospital case study based off of it. But I mean, if you're a smaller shop and you're only dealing with $3 or $4 grand in premium, you might not get the full benefit of your investment. But here's the thing: again, you're becoming more cyber secure, right? You are aligning with your compliance standards if you have them, which are going to limit fines and penalties if you do get hit. So it may not pay off immediately like it does sometimes, but it'll surely pay off in the event of a claim.
Yeah. Well, and the way I've always thought about stuff like this is, it's like I have a security system in my home. My neighbor doesn't. Which house is going to be easier to hit? Right. My guess, correct me if I'm wrong, is these bad actors are looking for the low hanging fruit. Sure. Like if they don't 100%. Have to spend a ton of time to break in, why would they? So the more barriers you have in place within your business that make it more difficult to get in, the less likely it's actually going to happen.
No, I mean, 100%. And I mean, I shout out to Chase Cunningham. I was watching one of his deals live a couple months ago. There was a known vulnerability, and I mean, he just went to, okay, we're going to pick this geography, and we're going to pick healthcare within this county, and how many people in healthcare in this county have this known vulnerability, and like he white hatted it all the way down to that, and like I had a good buddy that I used to eat dinner with or breakfast with every Friday. He runs a manufacturer here in our area, and he came out to a deal that we put on with CISA and with our local Chamber of Commerce. And at the time, the average ransom payment was, right around 250, 275K. And he came up to me after the event and said, "Man, I'm in Oak Grove, Arkansas, or wherever." He was like, "You think they're going to hit me for $250,000?" And I said, "Nope, sure don't." And he was like, "Yeah, that's what I thought." I was like, "Yeah, I think it'll be closer to 2 to 3 million." And he was like, I mean, eyes got really big. And I was like, they don't care where you are. All they care, like, if they can get in, right? Like if the vulnerability is there and they can backdoor, next thing they're doing, we got the Conti playbook, right? Like when Conti was broken up as a ransomware group, we got their playbook. The second thing that Conti was telling their hackers is go in and find out how much revenue we're dealing with and base the ransom off of that, right? They might care what sector you're in. They don't necessarily care what sector you're in. They don't care at all where you're located, right?
Yeah.
All they care about is, can we get in? What's the revenue and how much ransom demand can we make?
Yeah. Yeah. So the higher the revenue, the higher the target, right?
That's right. I mean, generally speaking, yes. And that does not mean necessarily that small businesses can write this thing off, right? We are seeing more attacks by volume at that 1 to 25 million revenue standpoint. But what you're going to see is you're going to see a lower ransom payment. They're not going to get into a $1 million law office and ask for $4 million. They're not going to get that payment. They know that, right?
Yeah.
You get into a $100 million healthcare system, they might ask for $4 million, right?
Yeah.
So that's where the variance is.
Yeah. Got it. This has been a fantastic conversation, Andy. Any last minute thoughts you want to leave us with?
I would say for the end clients out there, man, and this is not a pot shot at local agents. I was a local agent, right? For the end clients out there, if you've been dealing with the local agent for all lines of insurance, the question that I say ask the local agency is, who do you have that specializes in cyber insurance? Ask it that way, right? If they go, or they can't tell you, that means you need to go work with the specialist. If they say, hey, it's Jim and he handles all of our cyber insurance, get your policy audited with Jim, right? Like go through and make sure that your exposure aligns with your coverage and make sure that Jim can explain the language and all that stuff, right? From an MSP standpoint, if you have not really kind of cracked this egg yet and you haven't looked at, I would even say personally, yes, everybody wants to look at their clients and how can we get clients, to spend more with us, right? From an MRR standpoint, that's fine. I get that. And that is a dynamic here, right? Like let's stab the elephant in the gut. That's a dynamic, right? But what I would encourage is, like, more so than that, look at go look at the Mastagni versus Lantec case in California. Learn about how your uninsured clients can be a threat to your business, and start educating yourself and your employees on how can we more effectively talk to our clients, or through our MSA, address our limits of liability and require insurance to make sure that we're covering up. Everybody wants to stay in business, right? How do we cover up those gaps with that uninsured clients present?
If people want to connect with you, how do they do it?
Yeah. Our website, fifthwallsolutions.com, definitely not fifthwall.com, totally different company, fifthwallsolutions.com. And then my email, I think it's going across the screen there, andy.runyon@fifthwallsolutions.com. You can go learn more about us on the website, shoot me an email. Happy to discuss cyber insurance. As you can tell, not a hard topic for me to rant on. So happy to discuss with anybody.
Cool. I love it. So we'll make sure that both of those things are in the show notes. If you're an MSP, definitely connect with Andy to see what he can do to help you within your business. And if you're, a business owner, connect with Fifth Wall as well. We really can't overlook cyber insurance at this point. It's just, in my opinion, and I don't even sell it, I think it's reckless to not think about it. So, Andy, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you doing that and sharing your experience with us. For those of you that are watching, listening, I appreciate you as well. If you want to connect with us, you can do that over at rialtomarketing.com. The other tool we have for you is over at revenueroadblockscorecard.com. When we work with clients, we help them remove 9 revenue roadblocks so that they can accelerate growth. And if you want to know which 9 are slowing down your growth, you can do that there in less than 5 minutes. So thank you again. Till next time, take care.